What is a go-to joke you know nobody's heard before? What do you call a child born out of incest? A gross domestic product. I'm stealing this. Thank you. What do you call a little boy who's half French and half Scottish? A ROUI lad. Q. Why did the walrus go to the Tupperware party? A. He was looking for a tight seal. I know several jokes in sign language. I guarantee nobody has ever heard them. You win this thread, hands down. How many bones are in a human hand? A handful. That was unexpected, I loved it. My wife said she wants to, experiment more in the bedroom. But it looks like I'm in the control group. This is like a very modern Rodney Dangerfield joke. Old man sitting on a porch. When he sees a young man walk by, dragging something behind him, old man says, "What you got there?" And the young man replies, "Chicken wire." Old man asks, "What are you doing with chicken wire?" Young man replies, "I'm going to catch me some chickens." The old man laughs and says, "You ain't catching no chickens with chicken wire." Sure enough, later that evening, the young man walks by with a mess of chickens all caught in the chicken wire. Next day, old man sitting on his porch. When the young man comes walking by, dragging something behind him, old man says, "What you got there?" And the young man replies, "Duct tape." Old man again asks, "What are you doing with duct tape?" Young man replies, "I'm going to catch me some ducks." The old man laughs and says, "You ain't catching no ducks with duct tape." Sure enough, later that evening, the young man walks back with a mess of ducks all wrapped up in the duct tape. Third day, old man sitting on his porch. When the young man again comes walking by, dragging something behind him, old man says, "What you got there?" And the young man replies, "Pussy willows." Old man says, "Wait up, let me get my hat." The old man rather likes cats a lot. What's the difference between a ribeye steak and a meteorite? One's pretty meaty, and the other's a little meteor. What's the difference between a hippo and a zippo? One's very heavy, the other is a little lighter. This guy is feeling lonely, and he decides to get an exotic pet. So he goes to the exotic pet store and looks around, and suddenly he sees that there's a sale. Rare giant talking centipede, with house. $100. He decides he wants a talking centipede, and takes it home. The guy and the centipede spend several days chatting and drinking beer, and they become good friends. One day, the guy says to the centipede, "Hey, centipede, let's go out to a movie." "Okay, 1 second," the centipede says, and he disappears into his house. 5 minutes go by, 10 minutes, 15, 20, finally half an hour later the guy goes, "Hey centipede, you ready?" No answer. He taps on the house. "Centipede." The centipede pokes his head out and says, "Hang on man, I'm putting my ducking shoes on." So happy that someone else knows this joke. I tell it to practically everybody I see. It's a classic. An elderly couple were in church during the Sunday morning sermon. All of a sudden the wife whispers to her husband, "I've just done a silent fart. What should I do?" The husband replies, "Turn up your hearing aids." Alternate version. "Doctor, I'm in Berry to say, I'm constantly pawing gas. They're silent, and they don't smell, but I'd like it to stop. Take these pills, and call me in the morning." The next day, "Doctor, your pills didn't help. Not only am I still farting, but now the farts are incredibly loud." "Good. Now that we've fixed your hearing, let's work on your sense of smell." My 6-year-old daughter came up with this one last week. Which place has the most chairs? The city. She is a genius, we're just too stupid to understand. On Sunday I stuck my hand into a feather pillow and had a rummage around. I did the same on Monday and Tuesday. This morning I went to my psychotherapist and told him I've been feeling down for a few days. This one made me audibly laugh. Thank you. This is the only joke I know, a classic dumb blonde joke. A blonde is sitting in a shoe store surrounded by at least 50 boxes of shoes. She says to the shoe salesman, "None of these are good enough. Do you have some alligator shoes?" The exasperated salesman replies with some venom, "Lady, if you want alligator shoes, go get an alligator." Salesman driving home sees the blonde on the bank of the river. She is wrestling an alligator. An epic battle. At last, she throws the dead alligator on top of a pile of alligators next to her. While the salesman looks on in amazement, she says, "Damn, Another one without shoes. Those weren't alligators. They were crocs. What do you get when you cross human DNA with goat DNA? You get kicked the hell out of the petting zoo. As I heard it, you get an investigation, your lab closed down, and immediate suspension of funding. How do you make a car top? Tap on the brake to it. How do you think the unthinkable? With an iceberg? It's a long one, but it's good. 3 men were standing in line to get into heaven one day. Apparently it had been a pretty busy day, though, so Peter had to tell the first one, heaven's getting pretty close to full today, and I've been asked to admit only people who have had particularly horrible deaths. So what's your story? So the first man replies, well, for a while I've suspected my wife has been cheating on me, so today I came home early to try to catch her red-handed. As I came into my 25th floor apartment, I could tell something was wrong. My wife was naked and there was a pile of men's clothing on the floor. I searched all over the apartment for the dastard, but didn't find anything. Finally, I went out to the balcony, and sure enough, there was this naked man hanging off the railing, 25 floors above ground. By now I was really mad, so I started beating on him and kicking him, but wouldn't you know it, he wouldn't fall off. So finally I went back into my apartment, and got a hammer, and starting hammering on his fingers. Of course, he couldn't stand that for long, so he let go and fell, but he fell into some bushes, stunned but okay. I was so angry, I grabbed the refrigerator and threw it over the edge where it landed on him, killing him instantly. But all the stress and anger got to me, and I had a heart attack, and died there on the balcony. That sounds like a pretty bad day to me, said Peter, and let the man in. The second man comes up, and Peter explains to him about heaven being full, and again asks for his story. It's been a very strange day. You see, I live on the 26th floor of an apartment building, and every morning I do naked yoga on my balcony. Well, this morning I must have slipped or something, because I fell over the edge. But I got lucky, and caught the railing of the balcony on the floor below me. I knew I couldn't hang on for very long, when suddenly this man burst out onto the balcony. I thought for sure I was saved when he started beating on me and kicking me. I held on the best I could until he ran into the apartment and grabbed a hammer and started pounding on my hands. Finally I just let go, but again I got lucky and fell into the bushes below. Just when I was thinking I was going to be okay, this refrigerator comes falling out of the sky and crushes me instantly, and now I'm here. Once again, Peter had to concede that that sounded like a pretty horrible death. The third man came to the front of the line, and again Peter explained that heaven was full and asked for his story. The third man says, picture this, I'm hiding naked in a fridge. My dad has been telling this one for years. First time I have heard it from someone else. I'm Buzz Aldrin, the second man to step on the moon. Kneel before me. Nobody laughs at Buzz's moon joke. Guess you had to be there. This joke was in The Sopranos, but I loved it so much. A rich man and a poor man are both buying anniversary gifts for their girlfriends. What are you getting your girlfriend? Asks the poor man. And the rich man says I'm getting her a diamond ring and a Mercedes. Why both? Asks the poor man. And the rich man says that way, if she doesn't like the ring she can still enjoy the Mercedes when she returns the ring. And then the rich man asks the poor man, what are you getting your girlfriend? And the poor man says I'm buying her a pair of slippers and a dildo. That way if she doesn't like the slippers she can go duck herself. This is pure gold. I'm stealing this. I think there's something wrong with the cactus I'm growing, but I can't put my finger on it. I've been growing a cactus for 10 years, and it's only an inch tall. I just told this joke to my teenager and she went and looked. I got it from Reddit before, so I don't know how common it is, but it makes me laugh every time. It's in basic Spanish. Hablo inglés. Si como ese dice un zapato en inglés. A shoe salad gracious. There's a long one I remember from a Latin co-worker years ago. A Mexican man walks into a store to buy some socks, but he doesn't speak any English at all. A clerk approaches him and asks, how can I help you today, sir? The Mexican man looks at him with a puzzled look. The clerk realizes he speaks no English, so he takes the man around the store and points at different articles of clothing. First he points at shirts, but the Mexican man shakes his head. The clerk takes him to the pants, but once again the man shakes his head. The clerk takes him all around until they eventually arrive at the socks, at which point the Mexican man shouts, S. Isosocas. The clerk looks him in the eyes and asks, well, why didn't you just spell it from the start? 3 altar boys line up for confession. First one goes in and says, bless me father, I've committed impure acts with a girl Clamet. Priest asks, was it Bridget O'Flaherty? Altar boy says, I can't say father. Priest asks, was it Caroline Murphy? The altar boy says, please don't ask father. Then the priest asks, was it Jennifer Smith? And the altar boy says, if I say who it is father, she could get a reputation. So the priest says, while what you did was wrong and sinful, it is decent of you to withhold her name. For penance I want you to say 2 rosaries, and you can serve Ma for a month. Leaving the confessional, one of the other altar boys asks him, what did you get? And he replied, a month off, and 3 good leads. I have actually heard this one. It's one of my dad's favorites, but it's such a good one. A priest decides to take a walk to the pier near his church. He looks around and finally stops to watch a fisherman load his boat. The fisherman notices and asks the priest if he would like to join him for a couple of hours. The priest agrees. The fisherman asks if the priest has ever fished before, to which the priest says no. He baits the hook for him and says, give it a shot father. After a few minutes, the priest hooks a big fish and struggles to get it in the boat. The fisherman says, whoa, what a big son of a bitch. The priest says, oh, please sir, can you mind your language? The fisherman responds, thinking quickly, I'm sorry father, but that's what this fish is called, a son of a bitch. Oh, I'm sorry, replied the priest. I didn't know. After the trip, the priest brings the fish to the church and spots the bishop. Eminence, look at this big son of a bitch. Please, father, said the bishop. Mind your language, this is a house of God. No, you don't understand, said the priest. That's what this fish is called, and I caught it. I caught this son of a bitch. Said the bishop. You know, I could clean this son of a bitch, and we could have it for dinner. So the bishop takes the fish and cleans it, and brings it to Mother Superior at the convent. Mother Superior, could you cook this son of a bitch for dinner tonight? My lord, what language? Said the Mother Superior. No, sister, said the bishop. That's what the fish is called, a son of a bitch. Father caught it, I cleaned it, and we'd like you to cook it. Replied Mother Superior. Yes, I'll cook that son of a bitch tonight. Well, it turns out that evening, the Pope decides to stop by for a surprise dinner with the 3 of them. They eat the fish, and it turns out to be absolutely delicious. The Pope asks where they got it. I caught the son of a bitch, said the priest. And I cleaned the son of a bitch, said the bishop. And I cooked the son of a bitch, said the Mother Superior. The Pope stares at them for a minute with a steely gaze, but then takes off his hat, puts his feet up on the table, and says, you know what? You duckers are alright. Bravo. 3 Catholic schoolgirls die in a bus crash and go to heaven. Street. Peter stands in front of the gate next to a golden font of holy water. He says, welcome little sisters. I'm so sorry you were taken before your time. You're all welcome, but I must ask you each a question. He goes to the first girl. Mary Catherine, has any part of your body touched a boy's private parts? Only my hands. Street. Peter nods and tells her, wash your hands in this font, your sins will be cleansed, and then you may enter the gates, and she does so. He turns to the second girl. Mary Frances. The third girl interrupts. Excuse me, father? Could I gargle with that water real quick before Mary Frances sticks her in it? I'm riding the coattails of this joke to tell my favorite standing in line at the pearly gates joke. A plane crashes into a bus and hundreds of people all die at the same time and end up in a very long queue. When they get to heaven, St. Peter apologizes for any inconvenience and explains that they will each enter heaven one at a time and join the angels there for all eternity. Heaven has anything and everything you can ever need, and in addition each of them will get one wish as they enter. The first person in line approaches St. Peter, and when asked for her wish says, you know, if heaven has everything I could ever want, I think my wish is to be just as beautiful as you and all the other angels. I would feel out of place looking like plain old me in heaven. St. Peter grants her wish, and she becomes as radiantly beautiful as the angels as she enters the kingdom of heaven. The next person steps up and can't think of anything he would need either, so he wishes to be as beautiful as the angels as well. Same thing happens with the next person, and on until about a third of the line has gone, all wishing to be as beautiful as the angels and entering heaven, when Saint Peter began to notice a small giggle coming from further back in line. He assumed someone was just very excited to be entering heaven and continued. By the time half the line was done, all making the same wish, it grew to an uncomfortably loud laughter coming from toward the back of the line. Still people kept making the same wish and moving into heaven. Finally, when they were down to the last few people, Saint Peter could see the very last guy in line, rolling on the ground, hysterically laughing with tears running down his eyes. Saint Peter now knew it was surely religious ecstasy at getting into heaven. The last few people one by one wished to be as beautiful as the angels and joined them all in heaven. Finally, the last guy, after several hours laughing too hard to be understood, pulls himself together, looks Saint Peter square in his unfathomably beautiful eyes and says, "Make him all ugly again." How do you titillate an ocelot? You oscillate the titillot. How many tickles does it take to make an octopus laugh? Tentacles. Two horses were fighting over a hay bale. It was the last straw. Should have brought some extra. So the head of Purdue Chicken manages to secure a meeting with the Pope. After all the formalities, he gets down to business and says, Purdue Chicken is prepared to donate $1 million to the Catholic Church if you change the Lord's Prayer from "Give us this day our daily bread" to "Give us this day our daily chicken." The Pope says, heavens no. That's the Lord's Prayer. It's been that way for thousands of years. We couldn't just go and change it. The Purdue Chicken guy says, okay, $10 million. Think of all the charity and good the church could do with $10 million. And all you have to do is switch to "Give us this day our daily chicken." Again, the Pope declines, saying, I'm a man of integrity. This is a sacred prayer. This is the Catholic Church, for Christ's sake. The Purdue Chicken guy makes a quick call to his boss, gets off the phone, and makes the final offer to the Pope. Alright. $50 million. Give us this day our daily chicken. $50 million. Just a small word change, and you can do so much good in the world. The Pope says, well, at least let me deliberate on it before making a decision. A few days later, the Pope gathers all the bishops and cardinals for an important meeting because he has an announcement to make. The Pope says, I have some good news and some bad news. The good news is the Catholic Church has received a generous donation of $50 million. The bad news is that we lost the Wonder Bread account. Somehow this seems in character for Purdue. A man was passing by a mental asylum and was curious because all the patients were shouting 14 14 14. Now there was a huge wall that divided the public from the patients, so the man couldn't see what was going on. Because of his curiosity, he naturally wanted to see what was happening. He managed to find a peeping hole to look through. As soon as he looked through the hole, the man was promptly poked in the eye by a stick. That's when all the patients started shouting 15 15 15. Here's a little lesson in trickery. Kid comes home from school and says, Dad, why did you name me Achilles? He is a Greek hero and we have no Greek in our family. Well son, you did make it through the Trojan Wall. Shouldn't it be Odysseus? Then, Achilles died outside, never having made it in. What's the difference between a chickpea and a garbanzo bean? I've never had a garbanzo bean on my face. I cleared a room with this joke once. For the punchline, I've never paid $40.00 to have a garbanzo bean on my face. An elderly couple were celebrating their 50-year anniversary at the local pub. After a couple of drinks, they started reminiscing about their sex life in the earlier stages of their marriage. They remembered one hot and heavy session they had behind the pub, with the husband doing her against the fence. They decided to try it again, to see if they could still do it. A policeman overheard their conversation and decided to follow them outside, as he didn't believe an elderly couple would ever be able to pull off such a maneuver. Lo and behold, the man had his wife up against the fence, going at it hammer and tong with loud moans and screams. When they had finally finished, the policeman had to know their secret and went over to ask. Well, said the wife, the last time we did that the fence wasn't electric. Two elderly couples dine together, then the men retire to the living room, while the women clean up in the kitchen. We went to a really good restaurant last week, says one of the men. Really? What's it called? The first one thinks a bit, trying to remember. What's the name of that flower? A daisy? No, it's one you give to your sweetheart. A carnation? The one you give on, really, special occasions. A rose? That's it. Then he yells into the kitchen, hey, Rose, what's the name of that restaurant we went to last week? What do you call it when a cow jumps over a barbed wire fence? Udder destruction. Ugh. Udder. What's the difference between an oral thermometer and a rectal thermometer? The taste. A nurse sees a doctor has a rectal thermometer behind his ear and questions him about it. Doctor removes and looks at it and exclaims, do you know what this means? What doctor? The nurse says. Some a-hole has my pencil. Edit. Swapped rectal for oral at the suggestion of This Is Not Tokyo. Thanks. My girlfriend used to smoke after sex. Well, that stopped once we started using lube. Sorry, I don't get it. Second language here. Can someone explain it to me? Why do you never see elephants hiding in trees? Because they are pretty darn good at it. Exclamation mark. Why do elephants paint their balls red? So they can hide in cherry trees. What is the loudest noise in the world? Giraffes eating cherries. So a man moves to a small village and goes to the pub to make some friends. As he walks in the door, he hears someone shout out number 34. Everyone in the pub lets out a slight chuckle. He goes up to the bar and orders a beer. As the bartender is pouring it, another patron yells number 8, and everyone has a good laugh. Confused, the man asks the bartender what's with people calling out numbers? Well, this is a small town and everyone grew up together. After hearing the same jokes all the time, we decided to just number them, says the bartender. We hear the number, remember the joke, and save some time. The new guy thinks about it for a second and yells number 93. The room erupts into chaos. People are laughing so hard that fear doubled over. Everyone is wiping tears from their eyes and a few are having a hard time catching their breath. The man tells the barkeep, wow, number 93 must be pretty good. Once the barkeep is able to calm himself, he says, we've never heard that one. Alternate ending. A guy in the corner stands up and calls out number 17. Silence. The townsfolk just look down in discomfort. The new guy says to the bartender, wow, number 17 must be bad. Well, yeah, no, some people can tell a joke and some just can't. This was also one of my dad's favorites. When he would tell a joke that we'd heard before, we would say things like, that's number 29. I was adopted by dolphins, but I don't really talk to them anymore. We just didn't click. Why did the blind guy fall into the well? He couldn't see that well. Thanks for the silver stranger. 3. Why do North Koreans draw the best straight lines? Because they have a supreme ruler. Removed. I can't remember the last time period related joke made me lol. Thank you very much. Kind regards. So I had the worst day of my life yesterday, and my friend told me that it could be worse and that I could be stuck in a hole filled with water somewhere. It's okay, I know he means well. Wow, that took me way too long to get. An elderly couple are in the doctor office. Doctor comes in and says to the old man, I need a urine sample, a stool sample, and a semen sample. The old man says, what? His wife says he needs your underwear. Forgot the blood sample. Knock knock, get a warrant. When someone knocks on the bathroom door, best reply is come back with a warrant. Kinda ducked up, but where does a suicide bomber go when they die? Everywhere. What's the difference between terrorists and tires? Tires don't blow themselves up. Setup. You put your hand on the top of the person's head and move it up and down while leaving your fingers touching their head. Guess what? This is what a brain sucker. Guess what it's doing? Sucking my brain. Starving. Old but still a bit funny. Why is North Korea an evil dictatorship? It has no seal. What side of a chicken has the most feathers? The outside. BRH. You really gotta hand it to blind prostitutes. If she tells you that you've got a mauve cock, she's probably just pulling your leg. The Ford F-150 has a towing capacity of 500 pounds. That's my best pickup line. And here I expected it to be dead on the side of the road. A bear walks into a bar and says, "I'll have a gin and tonic." The bartender replies, "Why the big pause?" A bear walks into a bar in BC. He goes up to the bartender and says, "I'd like a beer please." The bartender says, "Sorry, I can't serve a beer to a bear in a bar in BC." A little upset, the bear leaves. The next day, the same bear goes to the same bar. He goes up to the bartender and says, "I'd like a beer please." The bartender says, "Sorry, but like I said yesterday, I can't serve a beer to a bear in a bar in BC." The bear puts his paws on the bar table and says, "Look, just serve me a beer, or I'm going to go over to that table and eat that woman." The bartender replies, "Sorry, I can't serve a beer to a bear in a bar in BC." So the bear walks over to the woman and promptly eats her alive. He walks back to the bartender and says, "Yeah, so I'd like a beer please." The bartender says, "Sorry, I can't serve a beer to a bear on drugs in a bar in BC." Angrily, the bear says, "Drugs? What drugs? I'm not on drugs." The bartender replies, "That was a bar bitch you ate." What's worse than raining cats and dogs? Hailing taxicabs. My favorite is a twist on a well-known joke. What's a pirate's favorite letter? Everyone responds at I. You think so, but she be the C. What's a pirate's favorite branch of the military? Amino. It's obviously the Navy. Stolen from a previous joke. AskReddit. 3 men are walking one day when they are confronted by a genie. The genie, in his generosity, grants each man 3 wishes. The first man wishes to be married to the most beautiful woman in the world, and a stunning model is willed into existence, madly in love with him. The second wishes for infinite wealth, and he immediately gets a notification on his banking app showing a deposit several figures long. The third man wishes for his left arm to always rotate counterclockwise, and his arm begins making strokes in the air. The first man then wishes for knowledge of all languages, and it is granted. The second man's second wish is for a spacious luxurious mansion, and the deed to the estate is his. The third man wishes for his right arm to always rotate clockwise, and both of his arms are now making wide circles in opposite directions. The first man's final wish is to return to when he was younger, and he immediately ages back to when he was in his early 20s. The second man's final wish is for enlightenment, and the secrets of the universe are revealed to him. The third man's final wish is for his head to always nod up and down, and his head begins making large bobbing motions. The 3 men decide to reconvene years later to update each other on their wishes. The first man, with his eternal youth, seduces his beautiful wife in every language imaginable. The second man used his wealth and spacious estate to teach others the secrets of the universe. The third man approaches the others and says, "Guys, I think I ducked up." This joke reads okay here on Reddit, but let me confirm that I roll, delivering the final line with the full actions. It's dynamite and one of my absolute favorite jokes. Q. What does the moon do when he needs a haircut? A. Eclipse it. How do you turn a duck into a soul singer? Put it in the oven until its bill withers. A friend of mine had brain cancer and successful surgery, but he has a hard time remembering jokes now. We were on our way to a party and he asked me to tell him a joke that he could tell. When we got there, I told him this joke, and he said, "This is a great joke, but I'm going to use a platypus instead of a duck." Later that evening he asked the group, "How do you make a eucalyptus sing like a duck?" And everyone looked at him like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And he said, "Oven." I laughed and assured everyone he wasn't having a stroke. An Englishman, an Irishman and a Scotsman all walk into a bar. The barman turns to them, gives them a weird look and says, "What is this? Some kind of joke?" This is how I've always told that joke. An Englishman, an Irishman and a Scotsman, a blonde, a brunette and a redhead, a rabbi, a priest and minister, and a cowboy walk into a bar. The bartender asks, "Is this some sort of joke?" Why do some couples not go to the gym? Some relationships don't work out. I would have found this joke hilarious if I had found it before today. The orange juice complained to his therapist that no one wanted to drink him because he had too much pulp. He was so depressed that he wanted to throw himself from the highest refrigerated shelf. "Try to restrain yourself," said the therapist. Ha. My wife's favorite joke. What happened to the passengers of the pink ship when it crashed into the purple ship? They were all marooned. Got this from a friend, and I'm not sure how popular it is, and it's quite lengthy, but here it is. 3 guys are lost in a desert and keep traveling. Eventually, they find an oasis and drink from it, but what they don't know is that the oasis is frequented by a patrol from a nearby tribe. They are captured and sent to the tribe. The tribe is basically in a jungle of sorts with all sorts of fruit trees around them. The chieftain tells the travelers to pick one of the fruit of their choice for a challenge. Sometime later, Traveler 1 comes back with a berry. The chieftain then reveals that the challenge is that they must put the fruit of their choice up their bums without moving or flinching. Traveler 1 does this easily. Traveler 2 comes back with an apple. They tell him the same thing, but Traveler 2 fails the challenge and is killed on the spot. All of a sudden, Traveler 1 busts out laughing and is killed on the spot. In the afterlife, Traveler 2, why did you bust out laughing like that? You were so close to living. Traveler 1, I saw Traveler 3 coming back with a pineapple. My dad's always told this, but a different variation. 3 men lost in the woods come across a farmer. Same idea though and always gets a laugh. IDK if anyone else knows this one, but here it is. Why do dolphins live in salt water? Because pepper makes them sneeze. An elderly married woman has become dissatisfied with her sex life, so she goes to the bookstore and buys a book with tips on spicing things up for long-time couples. One of the suggestions is to try costumes and role-playing, so she goes to the costume store and buys a superhero costume. One day while her husband is out running errands she decides to try it out. She takes off all of her clothes, puts on just the cape from the costume, and hides in the closet, waiting for her husband to get home. When he does, a few seconds after he gets in the house, she jumps out of the closet wearing nothing but the cape and says super pussy. Her husband glances at her for a minute and then says I'll take the soup. I had a few good ones about roofs, but they always go over everyone's head. How do French ambulances sound? OUIU? How do Nintendo ambulance sound? WIU. I made up THD greatest dad joke in history. When I was 5 I took a ruler to my dad, started poking him with it. When he asked what I was doing 10 minutes later I said, "I'm measuring your patience." He left his business call and laughed for 5 minutes straight. I was born to make dad jokes. As a recent dad, I'm going to find a ruler and annoy my GF. What's red and bad for your teeth? A brick. What's red and smells like green paint? Red paint. My absolute favorite one. What did the farmer say when he lost his tractor? Where's my tractor? Some days I can't even finish it BC I laugh too hard. OMG this was my mom's favorite for a while. She really drew it out like here's my tractor. Made me laugh every time. Why did the squirrel fall out of the tree? It died. Why did the second squirrel fall out of the tree? It was stapled to the first one. Why did the third squirrel fall out of the tree? Peer pressure. Why did the refrigerator fall out of the tree? Because trees cannot support the weight of refrigerators. Why did Sally fall off her bike? She was hit in the head with 3 squirrels and a fridge. Knock knock, who's there? Not Sally. She's in the air after a fridge fell on her. My son came up with this one. How do you make an elephant float? Just add ice cream. This is genius and I've never heard it before. What do you call a Mexican midget? A paragraph because he's not a full essay. Friend told me this one and it stuck. What's the difference between the Rolling Stones and a Scottish sheep herder? Well, whereas the Rolling Stones are known for saying, "Hey you, get off of my cloud," a Scottish sheep herder says, "Hey McCloud, get off my you. Am I your friend?" That's my go-to. Here's another. 2 Scotsmen were sitting on top of a hill that overlooked their small village. During a break in the conversation, one man lets out a sigh as he's looking down at his village, and his friend asks him what's wrong. "Look at that town down there," he replied. "You see the bridge crossing the river that leads into our village? I built that bridge with my own 2 bare hands. But do they call me McGregor, the bridge builder? No. And you see the church in the middle of our village, overlooking the square? Well, I built that church with my own 2 bare hands. And do they call me McGregor, the church builder? No." He pauses and looks over at his friend. "But duck one sheep." How many kids with that does it take to screw in a light bulb? Wanna ride bikes? How many therapists does it take to change a light bulb? 1, but the light bulb has to really want to change. What do you call an alligator in a vest? An investigator. A horse walked into a bar. The bartender asked why the long face? The horse said, my alcoholism is destroying my family. Bojic, is that you? Ayn Rand pull and pull Ryan go into a bar. The bartender serves them tainted alcohol because there are no government regulations. They drink it and die. The end. New Iorka. This is a joke that my dad always tells me. I've probably heard it 5 times since I was 8 so I remember it quite well. I did have to search up some parts since I don't really know men's sizes. One day, a man began experiencing a horrible headache. He went to multiple doctors, all of whom couldn't give him an explanation or a solution to the headache. After years of the same symptoms, the man finally found a doctor who can fix the situation. The doctor told him, the good news is I can fix your headaches, so you'll never have them again. The bad news is that it will require castration. You have a very rare condition, which causes your testicles to press on your spine, creating one hell of a headache. The only way to relieve the pressure is to remove the testicles. The man was depressed because 2 of the 3 things that made him a man will be removed. Realizing he had no other choice, he agreed to the castration. When he left the hospital he was without a headache for the first time in 10 years. He decided he would make a new him, where he has no worries of headaches. He saw a tailor shop and thought, a new suit is fit for a new man, a new me. After entering the shop, he asked the tailor for a new suit. The tailor said, HMM. Looking at you, you are size 40 for long. The man surprised asked, that's right, how did you know? Been in the business for over 50 years. The man tried on the suit given, and it fit perfectly. The man realizing he needed a shirt for the suit asked for one. The tailor looked at him and said, HMM. You are a 35 sleeve and 16 neck. Again, Joe was surprised. That's right, how did you know? The tailor responded again, been in the business for over 50 years. The man tried on the shirt, and it fit perfectly. The man decided he needed new shoes with his suit and shirt. The tailor looked at him and said, HMM. You are 9 1/2. The man was surprised and exclaimed, that's right, how did you know? The tailor responded again, been in the business for over 50 years. The man tried on the shoes and they fit perfectly. The tailor said, how about some underwear? The man was startled, but realized the logic. Since he already got everything else, he said yes. The tailor looked at him and said, HMM. You are a size 36. The man laughed, catching the tailor. Aha, you're wrong. I've worn size 34 since I was 18 years old. The tailor shook his head. No, you can't wear a size 34. A size 34 underwear would press your testicles up against the base of your spine and give you one hell of a headache. Caught off guard by the low voted comment. Have a wonderful cake day, you splendid joker. Why did the seamen cross the road? Because I put on the wrong socks this morning. No one's ever heard what's the difference between a sniper with bad eyesight and a constipated owl before. Or at least no one I've told it to. One shoots but doesn't hit and the other hoots but doesn't chiss. Feel free. Why can't ants get COVID? Because they have antibodies. What do you call a boomerang that doesn't work? A stick. What did the elephant say to the naked man? It's cute, but can you really breathe through that thing? What do you call a fortune-telling midget on the run? A small medium at large. What do you call a rude criminal walking downstairs? A condescending. Oh my, you watched until the end? That's fucking awesome, dude. Thanks for watching.